Hey everybody, it's Thursday and we're still talking about intros.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And what Josh was saying before, he was talking that we need to change our intro. And I was like, no. And then coming in today, and I was like, maybe we should change our intro. Who knows? We do have, updated all kinds of good stuff going on. So maybe, that's what we're here is sharing that with you, talking about all that, and love doing that. So I guess we always start out with a fishing report.
Yeah. Not much to say from around here. It's just summer fishing. If you're on the river, get your floats out or get some, get those crappie rigs out and fish that brush. And we were even pulling some mid-river fish just along the brush piles, floating. We were just drifting the boat and floating plastics along brush piles and picking up crappies. And so, it's just a fun time of year to be fishing panfish. That's for sure.
It is really interesting though, because as we were kind of floating along, we got to. Sorry, my cat's knocking everything down. As we were floating along, we got to kind of see how everybody else was fishing. And it was interesting because there was actually groups of people that weren't catching any fish at all. And then there were groups of people that were honestly kind of slamming on fish. And one of the differences there is the people that were kind of stuck in spring patterns versus the people who had kind of looked into those deeper water spots.
Yeah, so the fish have definitely moved out a little bit. You can still catch them up shallow in the river systems, but the bigger fish and stuff are moving out. Like I said beginning, don't forget that the mid-river stuff for panfish, because even though there's a little bit of current this time of year, the water's low, they can still sit in the little eddies and in between those big brush piles. So don't overlook those while you're scooting down the river. Lakes and stuff, weeds are up, so hit the weed edges.
And I guess we always like to troll for panfish. We haven't even done that yet this
year.
We're
moving.
Well, that's true, because we've been fishing the river all the way till then, because then after that, honestly, we won't be by the Wolf River system anymore. Nope. And that's going to be actually really crazy. So after that, we will be hitting the lakes and doing some of those favorite tactics that we haven't hit yet this year. But the cool thing is there's still plenty of summer to come.
Yes. So let us know what you're doing and how fishing's going for you, because we always like to hear about other places other than north central Wisconsin or northeast Wisconsin, whatever you want to call us, and we can chat about that too.
But with that, if you have any questions or comments or things along the way, make sure to put that in the comments, because we are here tonight talking with one of our favorite people. So let's bring him on in. Welcome to the show, bro.
Hey.
So thanks for being here. I imagine most people who are watching probably know who you are, but in case they don't, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I was raised in the wild by bluegills, and when I became a bull, I decided to find my own weed bed up north, and so I decided to guide for walleyes all summer, because bluegills are too precious for me, and I'm selfish, and I want to keep them to myself. But honestly, I guide and I fish and try to communicate what I could figure out, what's happening out there. And it's real interesting. It's constantly changing. And I just love people have great stories. I had to become a guide because I like to fish. And if I have a day off, I go fishing. Right.
Yeah.
So you can see what's going to happen here. I have to guide to make an income, right? So it'd be different if I was into casinos and I was going to casino, then I'd have to work at one. You know what I mean? But I'm a guide, so I want to make sure, I'm on the water every day. What do people like us do on our days off? We go fishing. And I want to see where the fish are. If there's any new schools, find some or maintain what I have going on. And so that's what I do. I guide and I talk about fishing and write a few articles here and there, Midwest Outdoors and up north and a couple of virtual things. And so I have some of that office time that I go nuts over. I don't like it, but no, it's good, and it's good to be here. It's in my neck of the woods right now. The water is 69 to 72. So last year was bathwater at this time. This year it's cool. And the cool thing about that is the weeds are still green. They just came up, so you don't want to be slimy yet. And fish are still maintaining shoreline areas. They're starting to move off to the main lake, and all the lakes in Winnebagosh, Leech Lake, Cass Lake, Bemidji, it's mayflied up here. So if you're coming to this area, you'll still catch fish. Can't catch them at home or in a bar, so you got to go fishing to catch fish. And so they're still biting. You just need to find shoreline fish, not so much the outer lake fish. And just, there's a lot of ways to fish right now because cool water makes it easy for you to try everything, whatever you're comfortable doing, so that's what's going on.
Well, that's actually a really interesting point because Josh and I were noticing even in our Wolf River system that, we've had bug hatches and stuff. Honestly, down here, not as great as I maybe think they've been in years past. But the minnow hatch is just right on par with where it's been. And the forage in the system, man, those minnows are packed in there. It's amazing. So you with the bugs and us with the minnows, how do you go about catching fish there when the bite can be tough?
Well, when it gets tough, sometimes the most rods I've had in my boat 79, and that's like on the sides up front in the rod locker. You don't really need to do that anymore. You just pick the way you want to fish. I hate to say this because some people like doing it. I try not to crankbait if I got a boat full of people. All the treble hooks, and there's a lot of surfaces in my body that like treble hooks, and I don't want to get hooked. So we approach it from a jig rig spinning thing. And if you pull butterfly blades on any lake in this area right now, the Northland butterfly blades, put a leech on there or a chunk of crawler, you'll get bit everywhere. If the waters are clear from zebra mussels, you need a slip bobber. And here's the thing. Slip bobbers catch fish on gin clear waters because you can see the fish on your side imaging and you can pitch to them. So we'll do a lot of that too. We'll speed cork and drop it on them. And sometimes you could, if you got a lot of fish in the area, you could drag your bobbers behind the boat as long as they're not spinning up, and then just let them go when the fish are there. It's a lot of fun. And then watching that cork, all of a sudden it's gone. Or sometimes like today, one of the corks just went down like this and went sideways. Bigger fish, just like this. But and you can still jig. I've been using impulse plastics, and paddle tails work good on some lakes. Fluke style baits work on other lakes. So the smelt minnow is working on a deep V head, and so it's what are plastics? It's something that looks better than the minnow. You put a minnow on your hook, pitch it out there, second cast, it looks like death. You're jigging a pile of guts, and it's when you double hook it, you're going in and back through, so it looks like a stick. Okay, so plastics look like they're swimming. The paddle tail, the fluke. Then sometimes you could just reel it in, and you'll hand the pole to someone, and they're like, they throw it out there. Now what? They said, reel, nice and easy, and you're gonna get bit. I was like, oh, I got one. Yep, that's what you do. And then I've been using this one quite a bit. It's got that little glider thing on the bottom there, and that's a ripping jig. So when you rip it, it goes side to side, and you can walk the dog. So you just jig the rod left, right, and you kind of reel as you go, and all of a sudden, whap! They'll hit it. And I'll be using this a lot, especially when the wind's blowing. Subtle is good, but when the wind blows, you can put some of the tools out of your toolbox, like a crescent wrench, on there with a treble hook and catch fish when the wind's blowing. But I always bring minnows. Now, we didn't have to put a minnow on today, but yesterday we did. in the same body of water. So it's good to have them. And if you can't get shiners, goldies, sucker minnows, fatheads, you could jig a night crawler. You could jig leeches, but leeches are best to keep just so you can pitch them out on a bobber. And so that's what's kind of going on right now. There's mayflies kind of floating all over. Night trolling up here is fantastic. You know, if you're staying here for a week, you're going to get 3 nights where you just get bites all the time. Your rod tip's going back, especially on the clear lakes. And I don't know how many lakes are dark around here anymore. There's zebra mussels in all of them. And the first 3 years, the fish just kind of look around like, what do we do now? And so they get confused. Then after it sets in for about 5-6 years, then you're looking for schools of minnows, but they're walleyes. So they're like schools, instead of being scattered everywhere, they're just like all right there. So you're pitching and you're pulling them. And I'll leave schools sometimes because you don't want to hammer them too hard. I have the old medical term for it. Take a drop of blood, not a pint, because you don't want to kill the patient. And the spot is the patient, right? Mm-hmm. So we go from spot to spot, taking drops of blood. And next thing you know, the live well's full. But if you pound on that school, and I see it, you'll be sitting there on a school of fish trying to catch like 4, and then you're going to move on. You'll watch someone pull up on a school of like 20 walleyes, and you're like, oh my gosh. And you're watching them. Okay. And they'll sit there, and then they're gone forever. They never come back. You've just wiped. You took like 8. You've wiped them out. You could have just checked on that spot once a day and taken a few. And that's what it is with clear water. You either adapt or you buy fish from the store. That's what's going on around here, man. And I don't. You got clear waters there, and I would say that you've adapted before we did. We didn't have zebra mussels that long really here, except for Cass Lake's had them for a long time, and Sand Lake up by Bowstrings had them for some time now. But for the most part, everything's getting them, and it's not the end. It actually, I mean, it's kind of fun. You can see bass, you could see crappies, you could see walleye swimming in formation, but it makes it more difficult. And if I have to throw some advice to people, because just before I got here, I had people asking me, what do I do? I used to catch fish so easy here. It's just as easy. It's just different. Imagine, look at the sun. Where's the sun? It's sun setting in the west. They're going to be on the shadowy edges on the opposite side, wherever the shade from the weeds or the steep breaks. And I'm noticing in deep water, they're using the mid-range flats around the humps when it's clear and flat. So, they're going to use stuff they never used before. And there's weeds growing out there in the middle on some lakes. But I won't keep talking.
No. That was like so much good stuff in there. I mean, because the zebra mussels, first of all, are affecting that area, but I think there's a lot of people in other areas that can relate to that as well. So first of all, as far as that water clarity and the change, I think so many people get stuck in their fishing ways. So whether that's like a spot, like a location that's been handed down in time, fish will be here, or if that's like a technique, I think people get so stuck in what should be working that they forget to try what else might be working.
Yes.
And I mean, I just think that's really cool because it even connects right back to the first thing that you said is that doesn't mean that you need a harder, more difficult, crazy technique. It doesn't mean more beads. It could just mean on your graph, finding those fish and putting out a cork and catching a walleye.
Yes. And if you don't have side imaging, you have an AquaView camera works, and just add a weight to it. If it's a micro, if it's a bigger camera, well, then you could add all kinds of features. And I still use AquaViews because I could see in the distance, just like you're looking across your yard. And it really helps to kind of see, because we got suckers floating around out there, and there's schools of suckers on some lakes, like a dozen schools, and you pull over them and it just arcs, and oh wow, look at these fish. Oh, they're loaded here. And then you see 10 boats on those spots, and the neat thing there is they'll stay there the whole time. Unbelievable arcs. And then I go fish where there's like a few whiffs, little swatches on the graph, and that we're just hammering them there. And I got side imaging too, and I'll kind of gauge what they are, and I kind of want to find the beginning and end. So, and then I'll target this clump here, or these fish. But if you notice too, you get those odd ones. But if you don't have this stuff, just remember, really cool structure is always going to have fish. It just does. And you throw a tournament on a lake, and there's 1 or 2 spots that are going to win that tournament on any given body of water, no matter how big they are. I've seen it. I've been out to Oahe. I've been to northern part of Missouri River, Great Lakes, and you don't see the other people the whole pre-fish time. And then opening morning, I'm on Oahe sitting there, and there's Chase Parsons, Gary Parsons, and that when that tournament before he passed away, Pete Harsh was there, all on the same school of fish. And you're like, the level is crazy there. But I was impressed because I never seen anybody when I was there. And it was just fun watching everybody just put the hammer on these fish. And you got like minutes. And like the first couple passes were the whole tournament. That's it. It's over. I mean, I was scrambling because they're trolling with bass spinners through the brush. I'm over there with my special little rig bottom mounters on the edge where I caught a 31 the day before. Of course, he's long gone. The middle fin is flying, and he didn't come back. And then you got Pete Hirsch over there, and he's doing something else. And we're ripping puppet minnows, but you watch. It was 20 minutes, and we're all hammering fish, and everybody's net. That is so much fun. It was the spot. It didn't matter anything else. So just remember, on a lake, really cool features will always have a walleye haunting them. Long story.
It just makes me think about my different spots that I'm like, man, that I've never caught a walleye there, and I bet one lives there. I'm going through my lake maps in my head.
Yeah, I see Daryl Elkstrom. Hey, it was good seeing you at the show, and good to see that people are getting out fishing. And Alexandria has 1,000 lakes over there. Otter Tail County has 900 lakes, and I live in Itasca, and Beltrami's here, but Itasca County has over 1,000 lakes. And then, but you know what? You boil it all down. You boil it down, and you render 12 that are diamonds. And then you'll have a couple that you don't even breathe to family members. And you don't even, to your wife, you don't talk about them out loud. You go, that one. Oh, that one. And this one's this one, but not that one. It's paranoia, but I've seen it too. I've had spots from 2 weeks ago, went there 3 days in a row, and then I was off to another lake for 2 days, come back, there's 74 boats sitting there. And so I had one friend used to tell me, you're paranoid. A sailboat's coming towards you, and you're already looking at it. And I'm like, I'm paranoid, huh? And so after fishing with me a few times, he said, you should be really paranoid. And that, but no, so it's I always wish people to do the best. But if I'm guiding, give me at least 10 feet.
Yeah.
I pick up clients from other boats, even if we hammer them in front of them, because they want to be in there and see what's going on. And, I never get mad. It's public water, and I'm nice to people. And I think sometimes it makes the people I'm with mad, but I'm just, might be a friend I haven't met yet over there, right?
Yeah.
But I got to say, side imaging has been a huge thing, and I've been using it for, about a decade. I had some of the primitive side images, and when that came out, it was amazing finding structure. And then I started seeing a little something there, and I didn't know if it was, my eyes or what. And then all of a sudden, the next one, you see fish, and then the next one, you see their whiskers, and you're like, wow. and then down imaging, some of these lakes are super steep. Down imaging is invaluable if the lake has steep structure. because crappies will be right on the brush like this, and walleyes, they're just kind of sitting over the break. But when your 2D sonar is coming down, the down imaging shows all the fish, all of them, and so it's unbelievable the leaps and bounds that those types of sonars have had. And then you go to 360, so now I can see in every direction. And then you got forward viewing, and the forward viewing has really opened the eyes for people in ice fishing. You could point around and see the crappies, and in open water, you can throw your bobber and bring your bait back to the fish. So it's really changed a lot. You really have to throw it right in that zone to make it function well, and try not to take off with your forward viewing bar down in the water like I do every other day. And, but I still find myself using side imaging, and then I'll go to the forward viewing after the Mega Live, and I got the Mega Live, and not to know any difference from anything else. Everybody was using the other super giant $billion multi-conglomerate companies thing, and I never used it. I waited for Humminbirds, and I got it. Loved it. I was super dangerous with it. And now with this next gen, I'm like, it's more about protecting the fish after this, because it really is a game changer. And I just got in the mail here that now on your Ultrex, it's going to come with Mega Live and 360. Okay, you can stick that stuff on there now, but it's going to come with it. And the Mega Live, you can lock it on your school of fish while you're spot locked, and they move independently until you stop it. And you can turn it with a remote. So now you've got independent moving Mega Live. And I don't know, this stuff is really amazing. And, it's, conservation has to be in there somewhere, because the fish don't get to rest anymore. You throw people out on a lake in a tournament, and they can pull out Minnesota, a 28-inch fish. We used to think, oh, they're like 12, 14, 15 years old. No, they're like 24 years old in this area. And if you go up by Ely and up in Canada, some of those places, they're older than that. A 16.5-inch fish up by Ely, or actually towards the very northern tip of Minnesota, can be it could be 12 to 14 years old, a 16.5-inch fish. So now you think, throw a tournament in there, and they all come in with big fish, and all they did is go until they see a bigger blob than another blob, or a fish's shape, and add up the years. They just brought in like 1,000 years of fish right there. Mm-hmm. But in TargetLock, live imaging and TargetLock is what's coming out, and it's going to be debuted, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm excited about the enhanced technology more, not so much as far as the fishing aspect, because that's awesome, but I think that technology does drive conservation, because we've seen from, even in the last 10, 15 years, we've gone from, a lot of the bass tournaments going from weigh-in tournaments to, virtual tournaments. They have a whole series now that's dedicated to just how many fish you can catch. You can follow it live. You can follow the weights live, like that. All that technology, I think people think, oh man, I can catch more fish with the technology. But what's actually happening is the technology is going to allow you to keep less fish because they're easier to catch. And I think, and that's what I like about it. And even though people don't realize that, it's going to be better for the lakes and rivers, I think, in the long run. Acutely, like the short run, there might be a little bit of transition there, but I think really it's going to help.
Oh, I do, and it's I know a lot of people in their 20s and 30s don't even keep fish. They go fishing to enjoy fish, and they don't want to clean fish. And I see it all the time. if I get someone that doesn't clean fish or doesn't want any, and we're catching like 11 to 13-inch perch, I'll ask them, "Do you live by fast food?" And it's almost 100% yes. Where I live, you better have some meat in the freezer because fast food is a real poke to go get. And so there's gas station food, but most of that is you just grab it out of the freezer and throw it in the microwave. But so it's always they live by fast food. There's a Chipotle nearby or a Taco Bell or something, whatever, Panera, whatever they eat at. And they ain't got that around here.
What I'm hearing is that you don't have a Quick Trip yet.
No, we don't. And, they're well lit. I don't walk into stuff or trip over anything in there. And you can get hot soup. So I like that. And there's some Simonsons, and that's out of the Dakota. So I'm sure there's going to be a gas station down here. There's what's that one down in Iowa? It's got like farm mural stuff in it. Casey's.
Yeah,
that's working its way up, and Quick Trip's coming this way. It sounds like in the world of electronics, but in gas stations. But but the cool thing is too is how everything there is completely different than anybody else's, and so because there's patents, and then the other guys all look the same. So at least over here, this one's different. But so I like that because without these preconceived notions, you're going to see some stuff, and I'm super excited about what's coming. It helps me as a guide. Doesn't make them bite.
Right.
It doesn't make them bite. I've seen bites where I have spot tails a month after anybody else has them. I have monster leeches, crawlers, puppet minnows, ripping jigs, bobbers, rigs, blah, blah, blah. And you just go bring them back past the fish. You can see them on your aquaview. You can see them on you're pointing right at them, and you can see them sitting there, and they're following, and they leave again. When they fly that middle flag fin at you, it is not going to work. And
that's when you wish your aquaview wasn't clear enough to see it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like to see if they swim away fast or slow. And when they swim away slow, then they know that they're really hurting your feelings at that point. If they swim away fast, they just want to go eat some more mayflies. And but it's a lot of fun, and lakes change so much.
Mm-hmm.
Take the total amount of knowledge we have. It's not NASA. It's not Elon Musk. What was he? I bet you his house has more technology than all of fishing, right? Okay, so that's trillions of dollars out there. Fishing's becoming $1 billion industry. Obviously, you go to ICAST and it's absolutely amazing, but it's not NASA stuff. You know what I mean? You still they have to sell product to make it happen. It's amazing how much technology we have in fishing now, and the boats and technology and fishing line. I got 1 pound sunline that's unbelievably strong, and 2 pound, 3 pound. And I found that just shopping on the road when I was out east. I'm like, this stuff is phenomenal. I got to have it. Look at how computers and 3D printing have changed for hooks. Like, it's amazing. I got Gamma Cats as a sponsor. You could stick those hooks through steel, just about through wood, and we don't set the hook in my boat anymore. We just reel and load up. If your feet leave the ground when you set the hook, that's too much Texas to it. Okay. I've had people, they set the hook so hard, their feet leave the ground. I've had people jerk the fish and it went over their head and hit the water behind them.
Whatever. You do that.
You pulled it out this weekend.
It just happened.
You just did that this weekend.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's fun watching the centrifugal force of the fish going over the person. And but it's really, if you got good hooks, truly good hooks, you just reel and it's hooked. Mm-hmm. And there's such cool stuff coming. exciting stuff with Northland. That's I'm so excited, but I can't tell anybody yet until I cast that I'm using out there. Then every little thing is a tweak in every part of the industry, and it makes life better. St. Croix rods, and even Aquaview having micro cameras with a big screen and true HD.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. It's amazing. But so in all this, I want to tell people, if you don't have to have that to have a successful day, just identify spots, and if you can, obviously get electronics that will help. But if you can find the bottom from there and have a map, it's amazing. But there's another thing. There's Lake Master maps and 1 foot contours, and your motor will troll you and take you all around these spots with cruise control on, so you can control your speed if you're spinning with boards. So now take that, lock on a target, hit spot lock. Man, pretty soon I could just tell my boat to go take these people out and put them on fish, right? I don't even have to go, do I?
Just tell your boat, do what I would have done.
It's amazing, and but what I'm seeing is this is some of the best fishing I've ever seen right now. Yeah. And last week we had an over 100 fish day twice, and last fall we had 125. No, that's 8 hours, and that's all walleyes. And that's in the USA. It's not in Canada.
Yeah.
They got unbelievable fishing up there. I love it. My Canadian friends are super spoiled. You got it made up there. But for being in the US in pressured waters, catching those 100 fish is like unbelievable. And it's not easy though. It's if you keep it within 8 hours, and that's counting not counting perch and northerns. And if you hook a 25 incher and it's fighting hard and hard to land, it slows you down. It's quite a day. And so even 40 to 60 fish is minnow pieces or leeches or crawler bedding and blood and slime, and it just looks like you were attacked by a bunch of garden slugs or something. You just walk in a gas station to get gas, and they're like, "Woo!" Because he caught so many pike.
Yeah, right.
But that's how it is. But you've seen it before. You have to adapt when you're out there, and don't get depressed if you don't get them right away. Kind of when you go into shops, it's not about the spot. They don't have to give you a spot. Find out a depth. Are they in weeds? Are they in rocks? Mm-hmm. And that's all you need. And then go from there. And a lot of lakes are, if everybody wants to tackle giant water, and if you do, you can get them big schools of fish. But smaller water, is still a good thing for crappies. And you guys fish crappies a lot. Small water is amazing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a perfect question actually from Daryl here, talking about with the summer, sometimes it seems like the crappies just disappear. You don't hear about them. Where do they go?
The deepest weed lines, and they'll be on the shadowy edge. When I was working on leech quite a bit, and I was working at a resort and stuff, and helping people out, I'd see crappies sitting next to the weeds in the morning, and I'd watch people dropping lines right next to their face, live minnow, chunk of crawler, and they wouldn't touch anything, and you'd see a dozen crappies sitting in one big force right there, and they wouldn't bite. Then at 9:20 for 20 minutes, you'd catch every single one of them. So it's finding that window and being on near shadowy edges of vegetation, near deep water. See, right now they've already moved out of the rushes. They want the weeds that have the most plume. If you have cabbage, if you have milfoil, northern milfoil, they're going to hide underneath it. Eurasian milfoil, if that's anywhere in the lake, they're in it. Right now, they're in that stuff. In the mornings, you can catch them on top, throwing a mimic minnow spin and just reeling across the top. And when that top hits the surface, you can't fish there anymore. So find the other top that's not quite up there and fish those milfoil tops that give you a little space to fish the surface. Those crappies are laying just a little bit down, ready to come up and grab minnows. And so crappies are there, deep shadowy edges. And remember, trolling time's coming. And so you could spin them with spinners, bullets. You can use crankbaits, and the rumble shiner is a little bit big, but there's try small crankbaits, and they work really well. And in the basins, see, lead core and heavy rods doesn't work very well, so snap weights work really well. Or you could just use a 1 ounce sinker 10 feet in front of your crankbait, and if you follow the diving charts, that 1 ounce barrel sinker on your line, just follow the charts and they'll tell you where it's at in the water column, identify where the fish are, and start trolling. And that's once you get on a school of fish, it's fantastic. You control clip-on spinners. You control butterfly blades are super good for crappies. They just look like a little mayfly that the wings are just spinning instead of flapping. And chunk of crawler, little crappie minnow, and troll it just above them when you find them in these lakes. And that's only like 3-4 weeks away, and you could troll for crappies in the areas.
We're south of you. That might
we're
be
south of
here now,
us.
yeah.
That's right now.
That's probably right now.
Another thing I'll add to that, Daryl, is don't be afraid to just throw a jig and a twister on. You don't even like Bro was saying earlier. The classics do well in a 2-inch or a 3-inch twister has probably caught more fish than any other lure out on the market since its conception, because it has the perfect action when it's being retrieved, and it's the perfect profile. And that's one of our favorites is you just do 2 straight line trolls behind the boat, and you just pick a speed to start with, and then you either go faster, and if you don't get any bites, go slower, and then you find out. And if you're from shore, just reel it.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's in my tackle box.
Underspins are awesome.
Yep, underspins and hairpins or safety pin spinners, but small paddle tails work really well.
Yep.
My favorite paddle tail in this area is a pink with a pink and white mimic minnow. And you can get those in a 30-second, but I use an 1/8 ounce. And in this area, any lake you go to, you don't even need to put bait on it. Sometimes just a little piece of crawler or waxy. Waxies have real good scent and they're small, so they don't change the action. That one has got more crappies over 2 pounds for me in this area than anything there is. That little paddle tail, and then there's the little tiny mimic minnows, but that 1/8 ounce, they'll just smoke it. And in this time of year, I use the mimic minnows for walleyes. People come and they're like, mimic minnow? I said, you go to Devil's Lake, they can't keep them in stock because crankbaits get stuck in the wood, and you got to go get it. And sometimes you can't get in there. Well, mimic minnow on braid, you just grab the braid and you bend the hook, pull it out, straighten the hook, and keep fishing again. And you just reel like a crankbait. And I've tried scents and no scents. You kind of put scent on this side of the boat and no scent. They just want the action in clear water. Makes a big difference. Mess around with colors, a shiner, fire tiger, perch patterns. But the mimic minnow has a smaller tail, not a great big tail that's going to beat them up in the face when they're following it. Just a little tail, and it moves with the slightest action. And but you could add something like that, and it makes a big difference.
And even that color.
Oh yeah, that's a great color, and this anything with a little pink and blue.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That one right there, that's a good perch. When the perch move up on the bars after the bug hatches to feed on crayfish, this with a fathead minnow is going to catch way more than just a jig. I mean, not just that color, depending if you're on Leech Lake Cass Lake, Lake Winnebagosh, or Bemidji, Bowstring, wherever you're at, experimenting with colors and in some of those lakes with a lot of vegetation, like Leech Lake, that's a good one right there. Anything with a little bit of glow and green perch patterns, that's a great panfish bait for crappies. And down south, they would probably use bigger underspins, but up here, small ones catch a lot of fish. We catch limits of walleyes fishing for perch.
Mhm.
So they're up there on the edges of the schools waiting for one to make a mistake.
Well, and that's the great thing about using a jig that is so durable, like you were saying. You know, if you get it caught in the woods and then you can strain it back out, but then your next cast, maybe it's a crappie, maybe it is a walleye, you are still going to have the security that you're going to get that fish in.
Absolutely, and good question. Well, we absolutely destroyed that question, didn't we? Yeah, it's just stick with it. You know, rattle baits like this Bagley here. You know, that rattles. You're gonna catch fish. You know, and I know they have everything known to mankind on Green Bay for this stuff. You're gonna get the one big fish in the area, maybe two. It's still, this is like a glacial lake area, and that will work. If you want to go get a 23 or 25-inch walleye on leash, you could throw that. But I'm going to go through the same area and catch a dozen of them on finesse. So it's however you want to fish. And then spoons. I've been using the coffin spoon lately. I don't have one in here, but the buckshot coffin spoon is, it looks like it's shape of a coffin. Yeah. And it's a crazy name, but it makes you remember it. And that is a great summer spoon.
Well, and that's awesome to bring up because it actually came out in winter. And I think so many people might have put that away with their winter gear, but you got to remember not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's last year I was tossing it in because we had a little bit of sandgrass, and sometimes it gets 2-3 foot, and the walleyes are laying in it on the hard bottom areas. And you throw a puppet minnow in there or any forward moving front hook, no front hook thing out there. But the puppet minnow, the rattling puppet minnow, or the other one, it's going side to side and it's sweeping through, and you're bringing grass up on the treble. You throw a spoon in the same spot and you loft it up in the air, and that thing, it does 3 different actions, and on its tumble down, you got more time. It's less work, and you're doing this, and when they hit it, it's in the back of their throat. Like you're digging in there, you're going through the gill to get it out because the walleye just inhales it. And there's a correlation between that and the rusty crayfish and the crayfish molting periods. You go through a spot and just fill your live well with, don't fill it too much, but you get your limit or whatever you want to target for that day. I mean, if Heather and I go out and get 3, we're fine. 16 inches or whatever. 15 to 16s. I might take an 18. Because I got sharp teeth right here. My fangs come out just like those vampire movies when I see an 18-inch walleye. But anyway, so you're flipping that spoon, you get, and if you put a minnow head on it, you can't keep the big perch off. So we don't put minnow heads on if you're after walleyes. But there's times you couldn't keep them perch off, but they're hitting it too. And mess around with different sizes. 1/4 ounce is nice, and you can cast it super far. And when you're throwing it, it could hurt if you get hit by it, but it's got one little treble hook on it.
Yeah.
If I add a treble to the top, it's just going to be, size 8 or 10 treble at the top if they're missing it and hitting, because walleyes will come and they'll hit it and sometimes miss it. It tangles less than you think. One split ring and adding it to the top, and I got a whole box of them somewhere. I don't know. I put them all together, and I've been looking for it for weeks. I haven't used it since last summer. I gotta find it. That was a lot of work,
Yeah.
But experiment with colors too, because Fire Tiger, electric perch. If you put your coffin spoons away, you're crazy.
Yeah.
That season's coming up now.
Yeah.
And it's on right now where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's something to snag it on, like stumps or timber, you're not getting it back. And you have to have fluorocarbon on it, because fluorocarbon is really good for zebra mussel lakes. And you get a little bit more life out of fluorocarbon. You can use mono; it's forgiving. If you use braid, set your drag light, and don't zipper lip them.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed people today, and they weren't ripping it hard. I showed them that from the back of the walleye's mouth all the way to the nose, there's a rip from setting the hook. And so a lot of people lose fish that would have been easy to land. Set the hook and reel them in slow, net them. You'll never lose them. So that's what I think.
Yeah. Mike here is asking a question about, he's been looking for walleyes on the lakes near him. He's been throwing the kitchen sink. Any suggestions? So you gave a pretty big highlight of a bunch of baits and talked about, trying up those different colors. That's great. Mike, if you have done those things and you are still looking for those fish, I would otherwise suggest maybe a different time of day, or rock pile instead of weed line, or I switch up something else, because if the bait isn't doing it, then something else has to.
Well, and if the water temperature is 70 to 78 degrees, look for short vegetation, hard bottom flats, tops of bars, but not the real high tops and not the deep stuff. Tops of bars that face deep open water on your lake, the basin. And you could be in the crayfish time, you could be on the back edge of the flies. But if the water temperature's in the middle 70s, you want to work these flats. Bullet sinker and a butterfly spinner blade with a chunk of crawler is a really good way to go. Pitch it out behind the boat as you already have motion. If you're hitting bottom, reel it in a couple turns and just drag it. And the nice thing, you could use a rod holder. You can use multiple lines in Wisconsin, so you could put boards out and or go to these areas and drift with bobbers. The real key is, if you're drifting with bobbers, you could use a leech on one. You could use a whole crawler and get about 2 feet off the bottom, because walleyes aren't always on the bottom. You drop an aqua view and you can see they're 2 feet off the bottom. So throw your bobber to the nose of the boat and your other bobber to the tail as far as you can throw it, and drift with the wind. And you're covering this area. And then as the bobbers come in front of you again, throw it out again, and you're covering water, and you're zigzagging. You're pulling them in and out, and you're covering a lot of water. The bait's held in front of them for long periods of time. You pull and then let it back, pull and let it back. So the bait's swimming and then pauses in front of them. And if that don't get bit, or the butterfly blades, get a glow red coffin spoon, 1/4 ounce, or a fire tiger. Throw it out there and hop it. Count how long it takes to hit the bottom. And the next cast, stop 1 second before and start hopping it, and do a hop, and then go side to side. And anything in the area is going to crush it. You might catch a lot of largemouth bass if they're around. I catch largemouth bass where there shouldn't be any. I mean, and smallies, of course, but the walleyes, they have different needs, and their food source changes. So in that water temperature, do that. And if you're past that, if you start getting close to the 80s, that's a totally different thing. Then you want to get to the steepest break, and even go over that break and use a slip bobber over the mud, only about 2 feet above the mud, and put the bobbers with leeches or a full crawler and wait them out. And that's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. It's just that easy. It's just that easy.
And if
that's one question for us. The temperature down by us, we're over kind of by Green Bay. Was 72 to 75, so we're right at the trolling temp. Our weeds were a little behind, because we went from being pretty cool water, cool, and then it was
To
just warm. And so
Yeah.
the weeds have they've been. It seems like we've been fishing mid-70s water for almost a month, but the weeds haven't really caught up until now. So
Are they
we
getting
got-
slime
we
on
gotta-
them?
But no, not really.
Yeah.
We have, like a lot of, especially in the rivers, we'll get a lot of the duckweed and stuff, and even that's
Yeah.
not horrible yet.
Yeah.
Everything is just, all the plants are just a tiny bit behind the water temp, but we're getting there. Like we're just on top of it. I dusted off my AquaView and put the trolling fin on it. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Well, that's probably one of the best weapons to have, because you could drop it in the weeds and go right through them. Unless they're all tangled, but I like to point it down and go right through the tops, and you can see what's down in the weeds. It's pretty amazing. I think there's a whole lot of technology coming out of that. Different brighteners for the screen, clarities in the screen technology, real high sophisticated cameras, and the screens are viewable during daylight. It's cool stuff, and I do like the idea of a micro with a big screen for the boat. It's simple. It's right there. You can mount it anywhere. You could probably even mount it with a sticky tab, like a 3M sticky tab, and so it's a pretty cool thing. But we're going into the dog days, but it's not really dog days. We're 2 weeks behind, but we're forward. It's a weird year. Last year, all of our weeds were slimy and just covered in algae and dead. And this year, we have beautiful weeds everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're beautiful. And the shallow stuff where the water's 75, that's getting taken over by algae, especially in clear waters. Any place where there's stumps, timber, wood, rocks, anything that in gin clear water that the sun can beat down on in the zebra mussel lakes, that'll bake it up real good and make it warm. And sometimes the fish aren't using those areas, but they will. When the fall winds come and refresh that area, it's going to load up.
Oh man. Okay, so I'm looking at the time and I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, we could talk fishing all night. But that's the thing, is you got to call it at some point. But I do have to ask, people have been, with us and chatting fishing all evening. If anybody has heard you talk about fishing, obviously you know what you're doing. If they're looking to get in on a trip with you, do you still have dates available?
Yeah, I do. And you can come out and jump in my 22-foot glass Lund, and we'll take it with a 400 Merc, and we'll take you for a spin. But I'm not going to go fast very long because gas is expensive. I had a trip that I had the throttle down a little bit because the kids were liking it. And I'm not going to do that too much, but last year I had a 20-foot boat from Flippin, Arkansas, and it was good. But there's nothing like this big plush Lund glass boat. It's huge, and you can sit out in the waves. You can spot lock anywhere. I've got talon, kicker, all that stuff, and it's if you want to come out in that. So we're talking about guide service tonight, and I totally shamelessly turned it into a lot thing, but yeah, it's such a comfortable thing, and compared to what I've ever been in. But yeah, if you're looking to get out, give me a shout towards the end of August, or not end of August, somewhere. There's stuff in August, a couple, maybe a week in there, and then October. I still got dates in October and a few in September, but nothing until then. I'll be out every day fishing.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Gosh, us too. Now I'm really looking forward to trolling.
Where are you going? I want to hear where you're going.
Well, we'll probably do a little bit of river fishing, and we might get the AquaView out and do some trolling. We'll see if I can talk Emily into it. We
have a lake where, like, all year it's like, you can find fish or whatever, but like the key is to go in the summer because just everything lines up right. There's this deep brush, and you can fish the deep brush during the day. I don't know, bluegills or whatever. That's great. It's great. In the evening, the minnows must swim over the top of the brush. I don't know what it is. is. You are sitting in your boat. You think it's the bass that start jumping. Oh, those crazy bass. It is not the bass. It is crappies. It is the big crappies.
Yeah, if you've never
yeah.
fished topwater crappies over 20 feet of water, it's a really fun thing to do.
That sounds fun. You know, that's anything topwater is a blast. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fish a bass tournament it's a kind of a border battle, and we get a lot of Americans and Canadians in this, so really you get some good fun rivalry. And this is on Rainy Lake, so you got 400,000 acres. You could, well, no, we can't fish one of the arms, but literally you've got 100 miles here and there, and what a blast! Looking forward to that. And topwaters, all I think about that, because you catch a whole bunch of fish other ways, but they always bite in topwaters. But it was good to come on the show. You guys take it easy, catch some crappies, and I'll be up here setting the hook too, or my clients will.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and I couldn't have said it better myself. So
Mhm.
thank you.
No more summer storms. My chainsaw's tired.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so thank you for being here, and everybody at home, thank you guys as well, because that is always a huge part of the fun. And if we don't see you out on the water, then we're looking forward to seeing you on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.